Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here today. Sorry about the late start. We had a little bit of a technical issue, but we've corrected that. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our chair so that we can begin the meeting.
Okay, we're going to call today's meeting to order. We're going to start with the invocation and the pledge from the staff.
Thanks, Chair. We'll start with an invocation, if we could please bow our heads. We come before you today to give you honor and praise. Thank you for every gift that we have been given. We thank you for the opportunity to come and gather together this day. We ask for your hand of blessing on this meeting of the CPS Energy Citizens Advisory Committee. We ask that you guide and direct our meeting so that it is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Thank you for helping us to accomplish our work and our goals this day. Amen. If now we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to have a roll call.
Thank you. Richard Farias.
Here.
Lawson Picasso.
Here.
Diana Martinez. Frank Gonzalez. Raquel Zapata.
Here.
Aralita Cantu.
Speaking.
John Kelly. Tom Corser. Vanessa Alvarado. Bill Day. Mr. Steve Bonnet. Andrea Clapsidle. Mr. Zapata. And Aaron Stein.
Here.
Thank you.
So we do have a quorum?
We do.
Good. All right, next is our staff updates. CPS Energy staff, please.
That's me. Good morning, everybody, again. For staff updates, the first thing I'd like to do is congratulate Melissa Carrillo-Cox. She received recognition from our CEO, Rudy Garza, for exemplifying the CPS Energy commitment to our community. So congratulations, Melissa. She'll be recognized at our next Board of Trustees meeting on the 25th. Wanted to let you guys know that our golf tournament is scheduled for Monday at Fair Oaks Ranch. I know we talked about that the last time we were here. On the 19th of this month, D9 has a community resource fair. And on the 4th of next month, D3 has a community resource fair. If you represent those districts, we'll be sending information out to you right after this meeting. And that is our staff update.
Okay, now I want to make sure that everyone had a chance to review the minutes. Are there any modifications or clarifications? Can we have a motion to approve the minutes? Steve Bonnet, second. John Kelly. The minutes stand approved. Next will be a presentation by our staff on the vegetation.
Yes. So I'd like to introduce Laura Lopez, who's the head of this program, and she's going to talk to you guys about our vegetation program here at CPS Energy.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, afternoon, I guess is really what it is. Let me grab the little forward thingy. And hopefully it works. Yes, so today we're just here to give y'all an overview on our program and just give y'all some information that y'all can take back. Also to put a face to the name. You may see probably Sid more than me out there as we're going through our program, but we also just want to give y'all the information and allow y'all for any questions that y'all may have. So we'll jump right in. A lot of things on this agenda, but we'll go through it pretty quickly. This is a fairly short presentation, but we just want to make sure that we touch on a lot of the things that we are doing in our program. It has morphed even just in the last 2 years that I've been there and over these last 10 to 20 years that I've been here at the company. So we are rapidly changing with the times, and you'll see some of that today. So just to introduce and level set everybody, a lot of the reasons why we as utilities perform vegetation management is so that it does not affect with our service to our customers in our community. Trees contacting the power lines and other infrastructure, all of our devices out in the field are one of the reasons why we have outages out there. And so when weather comes in, it also affects trees blowing into our power lines or breaking into our power lines. So we are trying to actively, take a proactive approach into mitigating these issues out there. We want to make awareness that sometimes they hit in the wrong places, right? Well, I guess there really is never a right place, but it can affect a lot of customers, right? One circuit could have thousands of customers if it's hit at the right spot. So we take that into consideration. We look at the entire circuit, but we do pay attention to where it affects more customers, and we go all the way down to the very last edge of that circuit in general. Again, like I mentioned, proactive inspections help address these encroachments. And with the weather that we've had, the patterns we've had the rain, we've had the drought, we've had the rain and the drought, freeze. Trees are all over the place, right? They're growing and then they're dying and they're growing. So we are working with that to make sure that we address what we can as fast as we can. We do have a program. Right now, our cycle is also changing. It was a longer cycle time. We're trying to bring that down with more resources and more availability to that. We have about 8,500 miles of line overhead. And so that's a lot of mileage that we need to make sure we get our eyes on that. So you'll see some of the things that we are doing to help with that. And this is one of our technologies that we are using. It's called LiDAR technology, which is light detection and ranging. Essentially what it is we have a flight, goes out to all of our system. It does a grid pattern out there. It pulls data really through this light detection, and it scans our entire area. We just had one done about right after summer last year. So we were able to get some foliage from our trees on there. And they are currently in the process of analyzing that data and organizing it so that we know what is a tree versus what is a building or what is a road or a car. So they are analyzing that data. What it does, it actually looks somewhat like this and like this to us internally. But you can see the colors range to show how close it is to one of our power lines or how far away it is. So obviously we want to address those that are closer first, but we take a look at everything on that area just to make sure we cover everything around our distribution line so that we don't have to come back as often, right? We can cover a good range of that. So we use this in conjunction with our GIS, as you see here and here, so that we can understand where our lines are in relation to the trees and encroachment out in our fields. So there's that.
I'm curious, what do the colors indicate?
The range to how close it is to our lines. So, and this is at a bird's eye level, so it's going to be harder to define what that red spot is, but as you get a little closer, you get more understanding as to where that location is. This to me is it is between 0 and 3 feet away from that area. So for me, if I were to only address one thing there or a couple of things, I would hit the red spots first, then go to the yellow, then go to the blue and green. And so it's just an idea of where these hot spots are. And we provide this to our inspectors as well as our contractors so that they have an understanding of what to focus on. Just for everybody's understanding, we do have a practice out there. This is a utility practice that we have through other utilities as well. Our routine trim for reliability and for our distribution lines is a 10-foot clearance from our lines. And I think even the secondary, it's a little smaller, but overall just generally around 10 foot of clearance is needed. We do support our design plan, our planned work that we get, either it's new design or any upgrades or changes to our existing infrastructure. We work with them if we need to clear trees or make it available for them to install anything out there. So those are some of the routine work that we do all the time. But as well, we do offer emergency trimming, right? If it's related to an outage, if it's affecting any safety potentials, if it's about to fall on a house or a customer, or on our line, I'm sorry. And then also right now we are starting our program with fire mitigation. And so we're taking a look at how that's going to affect, and we're obviously concerned about trees in our fire mitigation areas, as well as other infrastructure that we need to make sure that we are keeping up to speed and in good condition. This design that we have here, it's just a pictorial of what we pay attention to over what we have our customers provide us information on. So anything that is the transformer, the primary distribution line, and our secondary distribution line, CPS is looking at that regularly. When we are out there, if we do see trees or vegetation into the residential service drop, we do let the customer know if they're available to be aware of that. But what happens in this case is we ask for that customer to call us to do a proper disconnection for that, so that that can be safely trimmed by their approved tree trimmer there. It is very important, and I'm going to say it probably a couple more times in this meeting, but call and disconnect, or call and have us go and check it out before we do any work out there. If you leave with nothing else but that, it is important for us to make sure that our customers are safe, and all of the utilities that are on working near our power lines to be safe out there. So, and you'll see also we have cable, television, and telephone here. That is something we work with them. Sometimes we will call AT&T, Time Warner, et cetera, or the customer can also do that as well, to have them work with their approved tree trimmers to do that work as well. So just a couple of insight there. So types of trimming, unfortunately, right, we have to get around the trees that are already either in our power line areas or near that. So if you remember, I said 10 foot of clearance, right? We do our best to do this properly, but these are some of the types of trimming that you may see out there, which we call side trimming, slope pruning, V pruning, and crown reduction. So these are just the different things that you may see out there already, or as they are out there, they'll make that decision accordingly to get our clearance from the power line to the vegetation. So we do work with our developers. I think I mentioned that earlier, but we minimize those obstructions as they're building new lines or doing any upgrades or any improvements to the lines. And here, I'm going to mention this, and I think Sid just sent out a couple of our pamphlets that we have here. If you open it up, it's a big poster. It's really pretty, actually. But it's extremely important to plant the right tree in the right place. We have a lot of trees in our vicinity here, different types of trees, and they all have different growth patterns, and they grow to different sizes. So a shorter tree, what was it? The red buds, I think the pretty ones in pink. If you have to put them under our lines, those are probably better than a bigger tree like a mesquite tree. But if you can avoid being under our lines, that's the ideal scenario there. So we just wanted to provide that information. There's a lot of great information in these pamphlets here. And then if y'all have any questions, we can help with those questions on that. Oh, yes. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I just kind of wonder if the line is in, if you have a new line that's being put in a utility easement, can't you restrict the planting of any trees within the easement, or how's that handled? I know existing trees that you're showing here, these existing trees are more of a problem, but for a new line and new easement, can't you restrict that or not?
You want to answer? Yeah. This is Sid. He is my manager of this area as well.
We work with City of San Antonio, Mark Bird or his staff on new build. They have landscape or certified architects that look at the plan and look at the trees that they're going to be planting on that property. And at that point, they decide, is it a understory tree or a canopy tree that's going to grow surpass our power line. So, and at that moment, that's when they try to work with them and tell them they got the wrong tree at the wrong place. And then, so hopefully, I can't say it's 100% because I've gone out and we've seen trees that have been planted and they're the wrong species. And then we go out there and we talk to the new customer that's going to be taking over. And then we let them know that they have the wrong tree. And all it's going to do is going to cause issues in the future. So it behooves, it will help them out to replace that tree or, change it out with something more, an understory tree. So, and the posters say it all right there, what trees, and it has a picture of the pole from Texas redbud to the largest tree of a sycamore. So it's definitely the right tree in the right place. We push that quite a bit.
So I guess I have a follow-up question then. I'm a HOA president, so I know a lot of times residents, homeowners are not cooperative. So I'm just wondering, if the new line is in an actual easement, do you have the authority to say, no, you can't plant any tree there? Or do y'all not press it that far?
We try our best to work with our customers on that. We could, but we'll work with them on that. I mean, we understand the aesthetics of what it looks like out there, and we do want to have that relationship with them. So we try our best. Now, I will say in the middle of a storm, if we have to get in there for a reason and that tree or that bush is in the way, most likely we're going to have to get that out just so that we can bring our power back on, restore power. I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, sure. Yes, I think there's a question online if somebody wants to say it out loud.
Yes, thank you. This is Adelita Kentu. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Going back to the technology slides, if you could go back a couple or one or two. Yeah. So this LiDAR, is that how it's pronounced? LiDAR strategy?
Correct.
Technology? Okay.
Mhm.
So it shows a plane taking the light detection. So this technology is on the plane?
Correct. Correct. Yes,
These
they have.
planes are owned by CPS or are they drones or what?
So no, we contract this out. So no, we do not own planes yet. No, I'm kidding. We'll see. No, these are not CPS planes, but we do contract that out, and it's just a one-time scan. So we'll have to go out every so often to get our data updated. But they do a scan. Now, we do have drones that have some capabilities for that. We are just starting into our drone program, but it doesn't do a full scan of the entire city right now, and it may just be as needed.
Okay, and so this technology or these planes that you contract with, they do it once a year for the whole city?
At the moment, we've been about, I think every other year is what we're looking at right now. So yeah, and so we go out for bid every time on that.
Okay, great. Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you. And then the coloring indicates the red. You said that, I think you said, or someone said the red is where the concerted effort should be.
The red is going to show us what's closer to our power lines.
Okay.
And so we want to address all of it, but we want to focus first on the red, and then the yellow and the blue, if you will, on this example here. So
you follow up, I imagine, on the ground, with somebody going and investigating it on the ground once it appears on this technology.
Correct, yes, and that's a good point. So our LiDAR is just an additional tool, additional data tool. So it just gives us some more information of what's out in the field. When our inspectors go out there and our vendors go out there, they just have a little more information instead of actually going to each and every spot. They already know kind of what to look for.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I'm gonna jump back, I think. Maybe not. Did I lose connection here? Well, I can talk through it at least. Did it go over? It's not going over. I think I lost connection. So that's okay. We will talk through it until they come up. And so always print out just in case. So it'll come up. Yay, it's coming. Here we go. 7. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. So we do provide customer communication in a couple of different avenues. So this is one of the ways we do so. This is most direct to each individual customer. If we are going to be performing work out in their area, one of the first things that we do is we provide what we call door hangers. And it is specific to which vendor will be out there from our tree crew vendors. So we'll have different logos there depending on which tree crew will be out there. It is both in English and in Spanish, and it provides some information about what we will be doing. And also we even include the name or a contact person in case they have any questions or concerns or need to speak to somebody more about what's going on out there. And then in addition, we do a courtesy notification, and this actually came over to my neighborhood. They didn't know that, but they came over and they knocked on our door, and I checked to make sure that they were doing all the things. But they knock on your door in case somebody is home, just to let them know, hey, we're going to be in your area, maybe even in your backyard. Oftentimes they'll leave a message on the ring if the ring comes up and nobody's there, or just to continue to make sure that people know that we're going to be in that area there. So like I said, they're both in English and in Spanish, and I'll go to the next one. No, I won't. Next. Oh, go ahead. Question, sorry.
For your trim work, do you also trim the easements for like the alleys, like for our older neighborhoods?
So alleys are actually, should be maintained by the customer is what we have had to go in there if we have our infrastructure in there and have to perform work in that area. But we don't manage them and maintain the alleyways. Is that correct? So just want to make sure.
Ground level, but in the tree on ground level, it's responsible between the two homeowners that take half of that alley. Anything overhead on the poles and all that, we definitely do the tree trimming of it. We do not maintain alleys at all.
So getting into that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that information. So if, let's say, I'm an HOA president and I find that some of my residents are seniors and they can't, for lack of a better word, fend for themselves from the back alleys, because it poses more of a risk than and a hindrance for them to do the work. And if they have nobody available, and then as an HOA president, we can't send anybody because we don't have the means to do it ourselves. And let's say it's above ground level to where it's more than 10 feet high, close to a power line. Can we call the same number to go ahead and perform services for that?
If it's on the power line or near the power line, right? Yes, definitely, yes.
And you said within 10 feet, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep. All right, and I think we're on the right one, just want to make sure. So again, some more communication to our customers, right? Our safety is important. We do only use qualified personnel who has the qualifications to get near our power lines and work on live power lines or dead power lines. So they are the only ones that are allowed to trim near our voltage lines, which is why it's so important to have somebody call if they're doing into the service drops or whatnot, so that we can go and disconnect that as needed. And like I mentioned here again, I'm just pointing it out, 353-2222. If you need to request that disconnect, or even if we just need to go, you don't know, right? I don't know, is this yours, is this mine? We can get somebody out there to at least take a look on that.
Lori, we do have a question online from Mr. Stein.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. This is great information. I appreciate it. I'm just curious, are your trimmers planning for the long-term health of the tree at all? And by that, I'm thinking of trying to prevent things like oak wilts or pruning best practices so that the tree, obviously safety is the first priority, but if it, and I'm wondering if there's even like code restrictions on touching older, like legacy trees. I don't mean to get too into the details, but I'm just curious if those things are factored into it all. Thanks.
Yes, we do take in consideration the location of the tree, what area. If it's a small suburban city, we follow their tree guidelines or their ordinance if they should have one. We try our best to stay out of oak wilt areas. However, depending on the line and the severity of the trim that needs to be done, if we have to do the trim, we do form the tree trimming on it, but we follow all oak wilt guidelines that have been identified we follow all agricultural standards, by the industry. So this, on oak wilt, we follow all the protocols that come into play trimming trees during that season.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a question as a layperson. If you're notified that somebody's going to be cutting the trees and around the power lines and you need to disconnect the power so they can do that, how many people does that affect? Just that one person whose tree is being trimmed or the entire neighborhood?
It will depend on where we disconnect from. So generally, if it's in a neighborhood, it may affect up to 4 to 6, depending on where we're going to disconnect from. And so we will notify them accordingly. So it'd be more of like a planned outage, unless we absolutely have to do it for an emergency case. But we will also still try to at least, hey, you four are about to get affected in the next 10, 20 minutes or whatnot. So, yes.
I forgot to ask, during y'all's trimming, if y'all find, or whether it's a CPS worker or a resident finds that one of the telecoms has been disconnected or it's hanging low, whether it's embedded or not, the same number to call to go ahead and rectify that issue?
So if it is a telecom disconnected for whatever reason, we try to connect with that utility, if you will. We ask the customer to do that on their part. They have their connection phone number, but we do have a department internally that we try to work through their representatives to see if we can get somebody out there as well. It does work. All right. So this is our last slide here, but we just wanted to share some information about some of the current partners that we have today. And you may see their vehicles within your neighborhoods or on the street. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 6 that we have out there right now. You'll see their vehicles coming in and out. They all have arborists on staff. They, like Sid mentioned, we follow oak wilt ordinances as well as any other tree ordinances that the cities have, since we have so many around our areas here. And then they all must be line clearance certified. So that's why we say they are qualified personnel to be able to perform work on these high voltage lines. So that is one of the requirements we have. Currently, on average, on a blue sky day, we have about 55 to 60 vendor crews out there in San Antonio, in the city. And we do oftentimes ask them, like, what's your availability if we have a major storm come in? Can we get some more on board? That's part of like our mutual assistance that we do with some of our local cities as well. So I think that was it. We made it.
Thank you, Lori. That was very, very informative.
Laura, I have one final question. I don't, maybe I missed it, but about what's the annual budget that y'all have for doing the tree trimming?
So we have increased that in the last couple of years to help mitigate a lot of our issues that we are seeing out. But at the moment, we're about 20 mil with what we've got going on for the year. Yeah, it is 20. Yes. We just saw an article, I think, Austin's ramping up theirs as well. I think they've beat us in that number. So we're going to try to see if we can jump on that bandwagon there.
I'm not sure, maybe this isn't in your lane, but when do we make the decision to bury power lines as opposed to continuing to maintain and do all this tree trimming? I know 20 million compared to what it would probably cost to bury a power line is, you'd burn through that pretty quickly, but is there any decision matrix on that?
Yes, actually there is. So good question. So this is one avenue as to correct multiple outages in that area. Tree trimming is generally fastest to see the fastest results out there. However, if we see repeated issues in an area, we start down the path of other reliability programs, right? Do we need to add additional like smart devices out in the field? Do we need to reconfigure the design out there? And sometimes those are a little less expensive than going underground. But the underground conversation starts to come in at that time, and then it's a decision on what's the cost benefit to putting this underground. Is that something that we need to consider?
A question to that, similar to what Andrea was saying, but first I want to say this is fantastic.
Oh, you like
You should
it?
probably market this and maybe even sell it at the,
I can't get credit for it, but it is pretty.
it's kind of nice, it's really nice. I'll use it.
The information's all online too, so I think there's a link there. But if not, we can get that out to everybody, but it's available.
We'll be sending a link out after the meeting.
Yeah, it's really nice. I guess it's similar, it may not be in the discussion today, but we hear about the PG&E effects on the West Coast and now in the Panhandle, the wind efforts, and now that we're seeing more of these events occur, I guess it's somewhat related, but what's going to happen? It's a high risk, it seems like, because now the utilities are being expected to cover the costs of the damage, right?
Right.
And so this seems to play into that risk reduction, but there's also other things like how do you ensure that that substation shuts down when there is a break, et cetera. So is CPS looking at that? And like I say, it may not be in your wheelhouse, so to speak, but what is going on in that area?
Right. So this past year, we've actually had a lot of conversations around what is our plan, what is our program to help mitigate a wildfire situation. And then, you know, obviously with the Panhandle coming into play, it just made that ever more important to have that conversation. But in addition to vegetation, we are looking at how do we perform our work or change our infrastructure out in the field to do a quick shut off, if you will, right? How do we lock out, tag out fast enough to just turn the power off? What that does cause or potentially will cause is a longer outage to that area. But the payoff is it may reduce some of this additional fire mitigation concern.
And that is a much longer conversation that we will probably address at a different time. We don't want to get Lori too far off subject.
Yeah, and we do have a huge task force on that, so we are heavily talking about that, and I am on the team, so I know enough, you know, with that. But there are a lot of different areas in that group having those conversations already.
Do we have any more questions in the room? Do we have any more questions online? Okay, well, let's all thank Lori Lopez and Isidro Bonilla. We didn't even introduce Sid at the beginning.
Thank you too.
Just thank you very much for making time to come today and to speak to everyone in the room and everyone who's online. And for those of you online, we are going to go into executive session. So if you are not part of the CAC, we respectfully ask that you disconnect at this time. Look at how people listen. Aaron, Adelita, Bill, CPS Energy, Melissa, Lexi, Kathy, April. Okay. We're going to stop the recording now as well. We're going to go ahead and close this portion of the meeting out. We're going to stop the recording and we are going to start our executive session. Frame.
Okay, so 60 days to get new people.
In the draft of the red lines that are posted, there's a transition clause at the bottom that says they'll take effect, fully effect within 60 days. And I think there's like 120 days for the board to appoint the four new. So we did want to provide a transition period so that, you know, the subcommittees could be done and you guys could do what you needed to do to move from the CAC to the CIC.
Okay, so should we anticipate then that our following meeting after board approval will be to start talking about these committees and breakout and new schedule and all of that?
I'm
I
sorry.
assume. Just so once it's approved, I'm assuming our next scheduled meeting will actually be talking about who's going to be sitting on the various committees, timeline, schedule for all of these different, because it's going to change.
By our next meeting, we'll be able to lay that out for you and we'll be talking to the chair about the committees and how that's all going to flow and who will be where. And we'll be reaching out to you as well to make sure that everybody is good.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for the roundtable? There's no one online. Richard? Okay, Richard.
I just wanted to make a suggestion. So thank you, Andrew, for asking about the timeline for that, because I was curious. I don't know if everybody would be in favor of this, but I think it would be helpful once the committee is the CIC, for the CIC to consider once the CAC is sunset, but to start thinking about perhaps a half-day mini retreat once we have those new people set. I know that's a time commitment, but one of the feedback pieces I had as part of the CAC is that there really wasn't an onboarding. And I came on during the pandemic, but I don't know if there had been historically an onboarding process. I just know, other people who've joined after me, like Bob and Andrea, you probably felt the same way, and probably before me felt the same way. And I don't know if there's already a process that you all have for board member onboarding. And I know that would look different for this group but it would be some overlap of content. So I know it might be a staff lift, and I apologize for that. It might be a lift for us volunteers to spend a half of a Saturday, like a Saturday morning or an afternoon on the week, whatever would be best. But I just think it'd be nice once those new positions are in place and the dust is settled from the district placements and another at large, that we have that opportunity to start fresh.
That's good. I've been on the board. This is my 6th year, and we did not have onboarding back 6 years ago either. So, but I think it might be feasible to do that the day that we do a solar thing and make that the day that we have /quote a retreat, more or less. And that would be a good thing to introduce our new members to, and then members that don't know anything about how, they were just thrown into it like we were. So anyone else? Frank?
I agree with Richard, and I think the rest of the board feels the same, both in person and online, that we do have to have more activities to where we have team building to get to know one another. I know when I started, I was the fish out of water and I had no idea who to talk to. And it took me about, I would say, 3 months to get comfortable to finally start talking to 2 or 3 people. I'm not saying this as a networking effect. I'm saying this more like, if I want to have a conversation with you and understand the way you think, because both myself and the board, we were chosen to share and complement one another. But if we don't have that immediate icebreaker where we can rely on each other and, respect each other and have that dialogue, I think we're just hindering each other and not move forward from where we need to be.
Steve?
Just a quick follow-up on what Richard requested about the onboarding. I think we had a similar discussion. Gosh, I don't remember if I've even been on this board for 3 years, but it was right after I came on, and I think I and some of the others requested the same thing. And I do remember we had got at least a onboarding packet that we were handed out, and I still got a copy of that somewhere. So obviously we'll need to update that anyway when the new bylaws are approved and the new structures or everything. So That I would request that be one of the first things the staff does too, is update that and get that out to all the committee members.
Very good points, Frank and Steve. I agree.
And from a staffing perspective, we've already started looking at that. We want to make sure, I don't do paper. And I wanted to make sure that anything that we gave you was electronic on a thumb drive or something where you could reference it, but not giving you a big old binder to carry away from the meeting. So we were going to talk to you guys about that as we got closer to the date of having to bring people on, reacquainting you with the group, reintroducing you to what the new group was going to look like and what expectations were. We didn't want to just drop you in. We wanted to make sure that we eased you guys in. And then when we brought in the new members, we got them up to speed to where all of you were, so that it was a more cohesive group. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, though. We've been working on it for about 30 days.
Thank you, Christina. Anyone else? Online then? Then this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.